Hello, you're watching the Daily Report for Wednesday, January 26th. Korea's daily COVID-19 tally has surpassed the 10,000 mark for the first time. Now, authorities claim there is no reason for severe public panic, as this reality had been largely expected amid the presence of Omicron. I have Kwon-soa standing by. So do start us off then.
Sure, Sunny. As you said, it was largely expected, and it was also expected by 9 p.m. on Tuesday when the number of cases has already hit past an unprecedented 9,000. And now, as of 12 a.m., that number stands at 13,012. And that includes domestic transmissions at over 12,700 with 269 imported transmissions. Now, record highs were posted in various places across the country. We've got over 4,200 in Gyeonggi province, followed by a little less than 3,200 in Seoul and close to 880 in Incheon. But also many non-capital regions, as you can see, are reporting more than hundreds of cases, and that as some parts of the nation are seeing a faster spread of the Omicron variant. If you go over to our graph, we see this jump from the day before, but also compared to last Wednesday, that is an on-week rise by more than 7,000 infections. And let's take a look at the total number of cases in the country that now stands at more than 762,932 people have lost their lives in the past day, raising the death toll to 6,620. Now, the good news is that the number of patients in severe and critical condition is gradually going down steadily, now standing at 385 as of 12 a.m. this Wednesday. Moving over to the vaccination figures, the number of people that got their first shot hasn't been changing that much, still at 86.9% as the day before. But now more than half of the nation's population have received their third shot or a booster shot, as we can see on our next graph here, 50.3% to be exact. Now let's move over to the numbers abroad. We've got more than 4.26 million new infections that were posted in the span of a day as of noon Korea time, and also a 5-digit figure of fatalities were tallied as well. And some grave milestones have been made across the world. We've got India that has hit the 40 million mark, and Argentina 8 million, and Netherlands 4 million in the past day. And those are the general updates that I have for now, but I'll see you back in a bit. Sunny?
All right, so thank you for those global tallies. As mentioned earlier, Korea noted an all-time high with regard to its daily tally today. And for more on the local COVID-19 situation, Shin Yeon is here in the studio with me. Yeon, welcome back.
Great to be here, Sunny.
Right, so pundits are predicting a further frightening surge in daily COVID-19 infections in the near future, Yeon.
Right, with health authorities confirming that Omicron has become Korea's dominant strain, experts are forecasting a doubling phenomenon to occur where the country witnesses an exponential growth in cases in a very short period of time. Over the past few days, we've seen cluster infections break out nationwide in a number of regions reporting record high tallies. For instance, Chungcheongbuk-do province saw its number of new infections double to 247 in the span of just 24 hours. And the city of Incheon reported 879 new cases, its highest ever yet. And many fear that Wednesday's jump in COVID-19 figures may be signaling a new wave of infections. Because Omicron is known to be twice more contagious than Delta, experts say our daily figures could reach 30 to 40,000 in the coming days. Amid the looming threat of the Omicron wave, Korea's prime minister spoke of changes to virus prevention measures.
We shouldn't be complacent, but we don't need to be overly anxious about this situation. The government has been preparing in advance for Omicron by administering booster shots and antiviral pills to more of the senior population. Now we will prioritise bringing the number of critically ill and deaths down and give out exact information as to what Omicron entails and how we can tackle it.
And it's not just the Prime Minister who's determined to tackle this crisis head on. President Moon Jae-in is holding an emergency meeting at the Blue House this afternoon, which started at 2 p.m. here in Korea. And a host of issues are likely being discussed, ranging from the country's response to the Omicron variant, especially ahead of the Lunar New Year holiday, to ways of making efficient use of our limited medical resources. Now, this is President Moon's first in-person meeting following his return from the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt.
Right, it is. Ian, let's also take this moment to remind ourselves about the new Omicron response strategy starting on this Wednesday.
Right, some of the key changes include making PCR tests exclusive for high-risk individuals and those with a suspected case of COVID-19. Everyone else will be given rapid antigen test kits instead. And these measures will first be introduced in 4 regions hit hardest by Omicron, like Jeollanam-do province and the city of Pyeongtaek in Gyeonggi-do province, before being expanded nationwide. And authorities have also made changes to the number of days in self-isolation for COVID-19 patients based on their vaccination status. For those who have been fully vaccinated, the quarantine period has been reduced from 10 days to 7. Those who haven't been fully vaccinated must stay in self-isolation for 10 days. And to be considered fully vaccinated, 14 days must have passed after receiving a second dose or a booster. There's one important caveat, however, for those who got 2 shots. No more than 90 days must have passed since their last jab to be eligible for the shorter isolation period.
Right, the shorter isolation period of 7 days then.
Right.
Right, on the treatment front, Ian, authorities are expanding the distribution of Pfizer's antiviral pills. Tell us more.
That's right. So as of now, Korea has been only administering these antiviral pills to seniors aged 60 and up after receiving the first batch of Paxlovid some 2 weeks ago. But on Tuesday, Prime Minister Kim Boo-kyum said authorities are considering to lower the age limit to include those in their 50s. The Prime Minister said the 200 courses of Paxlovid that have been used up to now have proved to be quite effective. He said one thing was sure, that none of the patients who took the medication developed any severe illnesses.
All right, Ian, thank you for now, but do stay with us for more talks. Right, up next, I have Swa back at the desk with the details from the latest government briefing on our COVID-19 situation. I understand authorities are seeking to put to rest extreme public panic over the latest figure.
Right, Sunny. Also, as Yeon cited the Prime Minister as saying that there's no need for panicking right now. Health officials at Wednesday's COVID-19 briefing stressed that the daily number of infections is not what we should focus on, and forecasted that in terms of the numbers, they are going to grow even further. So here's the gist of what the government will focus on from here on.
The goals of our containment strategy against the Omicron variant will be to minimize the number of serious illnesses and deaths, prevent saturation and collapse in our healthcare system, and mitigate any socio-economic impacts by limiting the scale of the outbreak the best we can, as Korea's outbreak transitions into the Omicron phase.
And the shift to an Omicron-tailored system was further explained by comparing the COVID-19 situation to that from 7 weeks ago, or on December 8th to be exact, when the daily caseload stood at around 7,000 and the Delta variant was dominant. So back then, around 34% of cases occurred among people aged 60 and above, which is the age group that accounts for roughly 90% of COVID-19 related deaths. Now, the elderly make up just 7.7% of infections. So while the number of daily infections has roughly doubled now, the proportion of senior patients has gone down significantly. And that's largely attributed to the rise in booster shots, which among citizens aged 60 and above stood at 22.1% on December 8th, and as of this Wednesday, 85.1%. A drop in elderly patients consequently led to a drop in severely or critically ill patients from 840 back then to 385 today, so about 1/3 compared to back in December. With less than 18% of ICU beds in operation today, a huge plunge from close to 80%. No people have to wait to get assigned to hospitals, whereas on December 8th, close to 700 people were on the waiting list.
Right, and staying with that, so what can you tell us about the fatality rate comparisons between the Delta variant and the Omicron variant?
Sunny, the KDCA has cited some analysis and also data from abroad, and they say that the Omicron variant spreads around twice as fast as the Delta variant, but the fatality rate is around 1/5 of that to the Delta variant. To be more specific, for the Delta variant, the fatality rate currently is at 0.8%, but for Omicron, 0.16%. But I have to mention that this includes people that have been vaccinated. So people that have not been vaccinated should not think that this fatality rate is at 0.16% for them as well. And that is why the government has also mentioned it's going to focus on its vaccination, especially for those that have not even received one shot so far, and also the elderly population, age 60 and above, to make sure that they do not develop severe conditions. Also, I want to mention one of the percentages related to those that are unvaccinated, those age 12 and above. There are around 6.8% that are not vaccinated. However, in the past 8 weeks, they made up almost 58% of severely or critically ill condition patients, as well as 58.6% of deaths.
I see. Meanwhile, so I hear authorities also touched upon the shift in COVID-19 screenings that Yeon mentioned earlier.
Right. In the matter of days, the prioritized PCR testings for certain people will be implemented nationwide. That meaning an expansion of rapid antigen tests for the general public. So starting on February 3rd, which would be the day after the Lunar New Year holidays, after they end, PCR tests will generally be conducted only for the elderly aged 60 and above, those with existing health issues or who have been notified by the government to get tested as they have come in close contact with a COVID-19 patient. But also starting on the 29th, these self-test kits will be made available at test centers nationwide for people to use, meaning between the 29th and the 3rd of February, anyone outside Jeollanam-do province, Gwangju, Pyeongtaek, and Ansong, the 4 places where the new system kicked off this Wednesday, can either get a PCR test or a self-test kit. So, for instance, if someone is in line to get tested and the PCR line is too long, they have that alternative to get a self-test kit, and they can also take this home and use it there. However, until February 3rd, those self-test kits outside of the 4 places that I mentioned before won't substitute negative PCR test results at places where the vaccine pass system is being applied. Now, while currently the government officials say there are enough PCR tests can be done on people on a daily basis, there's also been the question on whether there will be enough rapid antigen tests with this shift.
The production and distribution of these test kits are being supervised primarily by the Ministry of Food and Drug Safety. We don't anticipate any supply shortages stemming from the extra demand that our new testing protocols require, as we are producing an adequate volume of test kits here at home. And in addition, they're also being imported from abroad.
Right, so there is production here and there are imports from abroad. Well, that is good to know for now. Meanwhile, Yeon, I believe there's been some favorable news on the vaccine front with regard to Omicron. Tell us more.
Right, I think many people would be excited to hear that Pfizer has kicked off clinical trials for its Omicron-specific vaccine candidate. In a news release on Tuesday, the company said they would test their vaccine candidate on 1,420 healthy adults ages 18 to 55. They will be divided into 3 groups: those fully vaccinated and boosted, and those unvaccinated. Pfizer said while boosters play an important role in lowering the rate of Omicron-related hospitalization and deaths, this protection wanes over time. That's why it's important to develop specific vaccines that can help address variants like Omicron and new strains that could emerge in the future. Now, if the trials turn out to be successful, Pfizer might be able to deliver on its initial promise of having this Omicron-specific vaccine ready by March.
And adding to that, Moderna is also readying itself for this Omicron-targeted vaccine. They are going to start clinical tests as well with the Omicron-targeted mRNA vaccine, expected to be available as early as autumn. Now, some people, however, are now suggesting it is one thing to have a vaccine ready against the Omicron, and the other thing is to have these vaccines available across the world. And with that, there have been talks about more donations have to be done at this current crisis, because in Africa, for instance, there is 84% 40%, according to our recent data, have not even received their first shot, whereas there's been a comparison to the U.S., which has around 40% who have already gotten their booster shot. Here in Korea, as I mentioned before, we also have more than 50% who got an additional dose. So there are some pundits saying that the Omicron variant might have not even emerged if we had more of the rest of the population, the world's population, having been vaccinated earlier. So let's hope that these new vaccines against the Omicron variant can also be supplied equally across the world.
Right, proper access to vaccine supplies for the rest of the world then. All right, so as always, thank you very much for the coverage. Yeon, thank you. See you on Thursday.
Thank you so much.
We start our news segment for this Wednesday on the international front. US President Joe Biden has spoken of sanctions directed at his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in the event of a military attack against Ukraine by Moscow. The tough rhetoric comes amid diplomatic efforts to defuse tensions on the Ukrainian border. Lee Kyung-won reports.
U.S. President Joe Biden on Tuesday said he would consider imposing sanctions on Russian President Vladimir Putin directly if Russia invades Ukraine. That's something previous presidents have avoided. The remarks come as the White House on Monday said a Russian invasion was imminent, and some 8,500 American troops have been put on high alert to be potentially deployed to Europe. Biden says those troops could move into Eastern Europe soon, but made it clear that the deployment would not be to Ukraine itself, but to reassure its commitment to NATO.
I may be moving some of those troops in the nearer term, just because it takes time. And again, it's not provocative. It's just exactly what I said. Is that as long as we have to reassure.
Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson also urged European allies to ready sanctions against Russia in case of an invasion. NATO has also begun ramping up its deterrence, with member states enhancing military readiness. Russia has amassed some 100,000 troops along the Ukrainian border, but denies any plans to invade. Instead, Moscow called the West's response evidence that Russia is the target of aggression, not an instigator. In fact, CNN is reporting that Russia's state media is depicting a situation where NATO forces are preparing to attack Russia. Even with military preparations underway, diplomatic efforts are proceeding to try to defuse the crisis. Officials from Russia, Ukraine, France, and Germany are set to meet in Paris on Wednesday. And the Ukrainian president has sought to calm his citizens by assuring that efforts are underway.
Together with our partners, we are acting as one team.
The U.S. is also preparing written responses to Russia's request for security guarantees that demand NATO ban Ukraine from joining its alliance. But it remains to be seen whether diplomatic efforts could help or worsen tensions. Lee Kyung-won, Arirang News.
Staying with the Biden administration, officials there have reiterated their commitment to ridding the Korean Peninsula of nuclear weapons. Now, these words follow Tuesday's suspected testings of cruise missiles by North Korea. Kim Dami has more.
The U.S. State Department Press Secretary Ned Price said Tuesday that Washington remains committed to the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula through diplomacy and dialogue. He then reiterated Washington's long stance that there's no hostility toward Pyongyang. The statement followed what appeared to be the launch of 2 cruise missiles by North Korea on Tuesday. The White House Principal Deputy National Security Advisor John Pfizer also told CNN the same day the North's continued missile activities threaten peace and security, while the UN spokesperson for the Secretary General, Eric Kaneko, underlined diplomatic engagement as the only pathway to sustainable peace and complete and verifiable denuclearization of the peninsula. Condemning the regime's repeated missile launches, an EU spokesperson urged the North to respond to calls for diplomacy by Seoul and Washington and engage in actions toward denuclearization. North Korea has yet to confirm its latest cruise missile launch, unlike the last 4 missile activities. The North previously did not publicize its cruise missile launches in April 2020 and again in March last year. But on September 13th of last year, the North had confirmed they had fired cruise missiles after staging launches over the previous 2 days. Considering the inconsistency, experts note the latest cruise missile launch was not worth a report for the North if it was, for instance, a part of the regime's wintertime military drills. There is also a possibility the launch could have failed, like the all-3 ballistic missile launches in April 2017. Unlike ballistic missiles, cruise missiles do not violate UN Security Council resolutions. If confirmed, Tuesday's launch will mark what is already the 5th show of force of the new year. 김다미, Arirang News.
In other news, Omicron is forecast to hinder global economic growth this year. The IMF has downgraded its global outlook, including that for Korea, which saw a moderate adjustment. Our Ji-young explains.
The International Monetary Fund has downgraded its projected global economic growth rate for 2022. In its World Economic Outlook report released Tuesday, the IMF cut its forecast for global GDP for this year by 0.5 percentage point from its previous projection in October to 4.4%. An IMF official said that as the pandemic enters its third year, the global recovery faces multiple challenges.
The Omicron variant has led to renewed mobility restrictions in many countries and increased labor shortages. Supply disruptions still weigh on activity and are contributing to higher inflation, adding to pressures from strong demand and elevated food and energy prices. Moreover, record debt and rising inflation constrain the ability of many countries to address renewed disruptions.
The revision is mostly due to sizable projected markdowns in the world's two largest economies, the United States and China. The American economy is expected to grow 4% this year, a downward revision of 1.2 percentage points from the previous forecast. The IMF official said it reflects lower prospects of legislating the Biden administration's Build Back Better fiscal package, the Fed's earlier than expected withdrawal of extraordinary monetary accommodation, and supply bottlenecks. China's outlook was lowered by 0.8 percentage points to 4.8%. The IMF said its calculation was based on the continued spread of financial stress in China's real estate sector and a weaker than expected recovery in private consumption. Among major economies, South Korea's downgrade was relatively small, a cut of 0.3 percentage point from the previous projection to 3%.
South Korea is also experiencing high inflation and an economic slowdown like other countries, but the revision has been relatively smaller as large-scale fiscal support from the government is expected.
South Korea's finance ministry also said the country's solid current account balance and the government's latest supplementary budget likely had a positive effect on the IMF's moderate revision. The IMF predicts South Korea's growth next year to stand at 2.9%, up 0.1 percentage points from the previous outlook. Ji-young, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. London's Metropolitan Police Commissioner Cressida Dick said Tuesday that the police will investigate the alleged lockdown breaches at Johnson's Downing Street residence after receiving evidence from an internal government probe into a series of gatherings. New allegations emerged late Monday that he broke COVID-19 lockdown rules his government imposed by attending a surprise birthday party in his residence when indoor social gatherings were banned. The birthday party was for none other than the Prime Minister himself to mark his 57th birthday on June 19th of last year. It was attended by around 30 people, including his wife. However, close sources say while the police investigation will point to his wrongdoing, it would be hard to prosecute the Prime Minister. Dubbed Partygate, Johnson is currently fighting for his political life after a stream of leaks reveal that him and his staff held parties during the toughest COVID-19 lockdowns in Britain. Being a journalist shouldn't typically be a dangerous job, but in Mexico, it certainly can be. Lourdes Maldonado, who told the president 3 years ago that she feared for her life, was shot dead on Sunday. Her death marked the second journalist killed in a week in the country, underscoring the nation's status as one of the deadliest for journalists outside a war zone. Maldonado had been registered on her state's protection program for journalists, which included some police surveillance of her home. From 2000 to 2021, 145 journalists were killed in Mexico, with 7 deaths last year alone. Maldonado was the third journalist killed in Mexico this year. At least 8 football fans died and 38 others were injured in a stampede at the Yaoundé Olymbe Stadium in Cameroon on Monday. The deadly events unfolded before the host nation's round of 16 match in the Africa Cup of Nations. Following a low turnout in the first round matches, free tickets were given out to fans to lure them to the stadiums. According to one witness, included among the dead were a pregnant woman and a baby. An Iranian court on Tuesday convicted French national Benjamin Briere of espionage, handing him an 8-year prison sentence. The 36-year-old has been held in Iran since May 2020, when he was first arrested for flying a helicam in the desert near the Turkmenistan-Iran border. He was charged with spying and, quote, propaganda against the Islamic Republic, although his lawyers denied any wrongdoing. In recent years, Iran has arrested dozens of dual nationalists and foreigners, mostly on charges related to espionage and security. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
A growing number of people have been choosing to make effective use of self-storage services amid the pandemic. We have more on this phenomenon in this following report, so do take a look.
Now, there are a lot of people who want more living space as the need to diversify residential environment has increased significantly since the pandemic. And to meet the demand, more and more storage facilities are being available around us.
Storage facilities have been set up in a subway station in Seoul. Vacant stores have now turned into an unmanned storage facility where people can store their personal belongings such as seasonal clothes and blankets.
계절이 바뀔 때마다 이 옷이나 이불 같은 거를 둘 공간이 좀 많이 부족했어요. 근데 이제 그래서 이런 창고들을 찾아보니까 지하철 역산에 물품 이렇게 장기적으로 보관할 수 있는 곳이 있더라고요. 그래서 가격도 좀 저렴한 편이고 편리하기도 하고 해서 이렇게 지금 이용하고 있습니다.
There are 2 types of storage, cabinet and room. And they can be rented for $67 and $110 respectively. The longer the storage, the more discounts you get. It's also easy to use. You can download a mobile app, select the box you want, store your luggage, and pay for it. You can use the same app when you're picking up your luggage. The inside of the storage area is fully equipped with thermal insulation and humidity control. Closed-circuit TV systems that record inside the facility are also installed.
되게 편리하다고 생각하는 게 일단 접근성도 좋고 그다음에 잠금 장치도 돼 있어가지고 잃어버리지도 않고 그래서 되게 좋은 것 같아요.
코로나19가 지속적으로 장기화됨에 따라서 지하철 역산의 상가들도 많이 공실화되고 있는 상황이에요. 그래서 이런 공실로 장기적으로 방치되는 상가들을 조금 더 시민 편의 서비스로 제공할 수 있지 않나라는 생각에 또타 스토리지 사업을 추진하게 되었습니다.
Currently, there are a total of 13 storage facilities in operation at Seoul subway stations. The first 3 facilities were so popular that storage spaces were all full in a month. And there will be 10 more storage spaces scheduled to be opened this year.
Large supermarkets are among the hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic due to a major spike in online grocery shopping. And to find a breakthrough, now these markets are offering storage services.
Some large supermarkets also offer services that store and manage personal belongings by utilizing unused spaces. Major customers include those who want to store items that are not in immediate use or bulky hobby-related equipment.
저희가 지금 스토리지를 약 한 40개 정도 운영을 하고 있는데 연간 한 200명 정도 이용을 하시고 계시고 그다음에 또 대기 인원이 있을 정도로 이용하시는 고객님들이 상당히 많은 편입니다.
From small to extra large, various unit sizes are available. And rental price also differ, ranging from $5 to $200 depending on the size. People can use the service anytime during the supermarket's business hours after registering their fingerprints.
집이랑 일단 가까워서 제일 편하고 이제 마트니까 뭐 마트 올 때 들리고 또 왔다 갔다 하기 이제 가장 편하죠.
The storage service may sound unfamiliar to Koreans, but in the U.S., the sector's annual industrial sales reached $38 billion as of 2018. It gained even more popularity amid the pandemic. According to data, 1 in 10 Americans are service users. Over in Europe, the industry is also growing centered around the UK, which has 1,500 stores.
도시의 그 면적이라는 건 한정돼 있습니다. 그래서 한정돼 있는 도시로 사람들이 자꾸 몰리다 보니까 본인들의 주거 공간을 더욱더 넓혀가고자 해도 그게 쉽지 않은 것이 우리의 현실입니다. 주거 공간을 더욱더 넓게 활용하기 위해서 스토리지에 대한 수요는 더욱더 늘어날 것으로 예상이 됩니다.
With the growing role and importance of personal space during the pandemic, this kind of storage service sector is expected to grow even further. This has been 신세벽.
The new word on the block is NFT, or non-fungible token, and it's creating quite a buzz in a number of industries, including that of content. For more, I have critic Kim Young-dae here in the studio with me. Young-dae, it's great to see you again.
Good afternoon.
Right, now before we delve into NFT, let's begin with a few words about the possible repercussions of the current Omicron onslaught on the entertainment industry, especially with regard to concerts and stage performances, Young-dae.
Doesn't look good, honestly. I originally expected the full-fledged of coming back, season of the global scale concert or the visiting artist concerts and everything. But now it doesn't really look good. I mean, for instance, Grammy Awards, probably the biggest the music event in the US has been postponed already. It was originally scheduled on the February 1st, but now it's moved to the April 4th, I guess. So a lot of different events had the same fate. The big scale concert, the global skate tour, Monsta X canceled the US tour. Probably one of their career-defining moment, but it was canceled. And some of the concerts going to be proceed as scheduled, but with definitely the strict,
COVID-19 protocols in place.
Protocols and everything. So now, again, it doesn't look good, but I hope it gets better.
Right. And this reality, Young-dae, would you say it's been adding greater momentum, perhaps, to entertainment-related activities on the virtual stage?
Yeah. Well, so it was used to be a kind of feasible future or possible future, but now it's kind of inevitable future. But the good news is that people, it's a matter of habit. I mean, people get used to this virtual, concert and the virtual experience of metaverse and everything, and especially MZ generations, it's already their thing. So I think in the future, in the long run, I don't think it's really a the bad thing at all. But right now, a lot of people are used to the kind of more physical beings and physical experience. So for them, it's definitely not a good period for entertainment consumers and cultural consumer. But I think again, in the long run, I think this transition is going to be happening way more natural than we originally expected. And South Korea definitely is one of the leading countries in this area, in this domain. So yeah, it's a good news.
Right, and hopefully that will continue to be the reality for Korea. Now let's move on to the buzzword then, Youngdae, non-fungible token. Let's start off then with a definition in the simplest of terms possible.
I'm not a tech expert here, so I'm quite new to NFT as well. But what I understood is NFTs are it's simply a unit of data, right? But think about it this way. You have a book. And that book, or whether novel or essay, it could be one of many copies, right? But if you have a author's signature, autograph on the book, it could be one and only item, right? So NFT is functioning for that kind of purpose. So with NFT, I would say it's a type of digital tag, or kind of like a digital certificate, based on the blockchain technology. So blockchain, it's a digital ledger, right? So the idea of it is the digital product could be authenticated by this technology. So again, it's a signed copy of a book, so it's one and only. So you cannot copy that one and only item, right? You can only sell or transfer it to another, right? So this item, digital item with NFT, cannot be copied, but one only can, change its ownership to another. So, in that way, you can create many different items, digital items with NFT, to be, absolutely one and only exclusive item. So that's why now people are so interested in this new technology, because everything they would create from this moment with this NFT technology, every digital type of product or book or anything could be one and only exclusive copy. So it can be valuable, theoretically.
Right, so it's like a virtual asset that's one of a kind, and you can trade it on the blockchain.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, using cryptocurrency from your virtual wallet. So yeah, it can be traded in virtually, with not real money, but with the cryptocurrency like Bitcoin or something like that.
Right,
yeah.
Okay, that I understand then. Now, how do you explain then the interest in NFT within the content industry?
Well, I'm going to be honest here. So this buzz and the hype right now is all about the possibility, rather about the actual, any like a substantial proof or idea. What I'm talking about here is that people got so interested in this NFT technology and the new items, because from the manufacturer's point of view, they're so interested, because what they're trying to do is that turning every free items provided online to a paid item, an exclusive item. They can sell it for a lot of money. From a buyer's point of view, they feel like they have to buy it because it's a new technology, and this item that was already provided with this NFT technology is potentially a high value item in the future. So they don't know it. That's the point. That's the gist of it. Almost everyone doesn't really know whether this could be a valuable item in the future or not. So that's definitely a high risk, but there's definitely a high return. So from a manufacturer point of view, it's no-brainer. It's an easy one. I mean, it's a digital product. You can do whatever you want, and you can make various kinds of product with just a simple change and adjustment. You can make a same picture with a lot of different colors. You can make a lot of different versions of like an idol's photo and a portrait photo or something like that. And it doesn't really cost a lot of money. But from the buyer's point of view, you definitely understand there's a risk, but you also understand that this is going to be future, and probably the 10,000 worth in the future, in the near future. We don't know that, but that unpredictability is also a possibility.
Right, so you're betting on the possibility then.
Absolutely.
The local movie industry, Youngdae, is said to be actively adopting NFT as a marketing tool. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, it's a marketing tool and probably marketing agenda and a strategy. So for instance, the special delivery new movie, they're now selling, well, it's already sold out, but they sold a lot of different versions of the movie poster with the NFT technology. So this is the thing that I already talked about. You know, there is one simple poster, but there are a lot of various versions of it, and you can sell it, digital versions of this poster with NFT technology. I mean, it could be anything. I mean, the photo card, the music, and the simple Facebook post could be sold with NFT technology using the blockchain technology. The conversation we're having right now could be sold if someone wants it. Right. With NFT technology in digital format. So anything. So basically, well, you can even sell the photocopy version of your analog collection, or LPs and the photos in your personal collection, and turning into a digital kind of photocopied version or something like that with NFT technology. It could be exclusive items for anyone who wants to buy it.
Right, so as long as you have the consumer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Now, to better promote then productive growth within the market, the Korea NFT Contents Association was launched last week to support the digitalization of local content and to ensure its growth within the virtual economy. Now, for more on this, I have the chairman of that association, Kim Hyung-ju, live on the line. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Mr. Kim.
Hello.
Right, so where does Korea's NFT market stand on the international arena?
Yeah, compared to its global peers, the field of NFT, Korea is still in its infancy, I think, because so many people who works in creative activity peers did not prepare for the NFT skill, and the marketplace also not so big. However, the activity of Korean create are actually expanding, and the domestic operators such as Kakao's, Cryptdrops, and Upit NFT market. NFT marketplace is also actively entering the NFT business. Now we are very first stage of a global stage, but near future, the size of Korean NFT market will grow, and we expect Korean NFT creator to play an active role in the global market. So now we are not so big, but very fastly we involve this market.
Right.
I think that, yeah.
Right, so we are in our early stages then. Having said that, Mr. Kim, what would you highlight as Korea's edge, perhaps, over the competition within the NFT market?
Yes, we are the technology and the content is the NFT. It composed. As you know, we are the IT strong nations. The blockchain technology and the IT network is very high competitive in the global stage. So we are very easy to approach to skillful and the technology aspect. And the second one is content. As you know, the Squid Games, BTS, and Minari, any various Korean content is very popular in a global population. So the combination of content and technology and blockchain, metaverse, and content. This is the very strong point. I think the Korean NFT market is very easily and very fastly involved at the global, the top 5 and top 3 stage. I think that.
Right, I see. And keeping in mind what Mr. Kim has just said, Youngdae, how would you evaluate the NFT value of Korean contents?
Well, it all depends on the quality of the content and the reputation of it. Because recently, a lot of because now everyone's trying to, delve into this, jump into these the scene and the industry. So it's not really exotic, right? It's nothing new, and everyone will probably at some point would understand what's the nature and what's the risk and what's the return. So now, this competition rises, and a lot of new items are coming in the market. Consumers can be wise. I mean, they will be wise enough to, selectively, judge, which one could be a more, potential as an asset, right? It's all about having an exclusive asset digitally, right? So, whether it's not really about the kind of size or the quality itself, but it's about how it could be kind of genuine, and it's more about the kind of individuality, right? So, as a TV drama and rises, and the new music and the artist rises, definitely the related items and the value of it could be rising, enough. And so it's all about the contents and the fame and reputations, because NFT is just technology. It's not the contents itself.
Right, I see. And Mr. Kim, what now are some of the tasks that lie ahead as the NFT market, as you mentioned, becomes more active in the future?
Yeah, I think three factors it is prepared for us. The first is institutional, and the rule is equipped, prepared, or revised for the more easily NFT business. So we expect the next presidential election to 2 or 3 Korean candidates very kindly accept the new NFT or blockchain technology. So we are very expecting to the change of the new government. And second one is the standard. We will make some standard of NFT. The technology standard is very important. The third one is education. So many performance do not about the NFT, do not how minting is the making the NFT over their create. So we prepare for the academic and the education program for the various creative peoples. So, and we also make some guideline for the marketplace and the evaluation system, and we will work for the ecosystem of a new NFT business.
Right, Mr. Kim, and best of luck with that venture. Thank you very much for your thoughts and your time. Right, that was the chairman of the Korea NFT Contents Association with us. Now back here in the studio, Youngdae, in earlier media remarks, and do correct me if I'm wrong, you spoke about the potential synergy of incorporating NFT into Korea's music industry. Would you like to take this moment to explain your thoughts?
Yeah, because I focus on the very nature of K-pop, and the idea of exclusivity would mean in the K-pop business, because K-pop, well, as you already know, it's a highly fandom-oriented market, and the engagement level is so higher than any other music. So, well, traditionally, if you judge the value of music or value of cultural contents, there's always an idea that different types of agents, like media company in a market, would define what kind of value that would be. So if you're paying for movie, it's always the same prices, relatively the same price, right? If you're paying for the monthly subscription of Netflix or Spotify or Apple Music, it's it's already there, right? So you don't expect any much more value than that. But well, think about the music as an art, and if you're a fan, if you're really high engaging, super fan, the value can be different. I mean, you have to pay for, you're going to pay for way more money for the one single, one and only item. It's not just $1 per song or $10 per album. So this relative value and how the consumers actually define the value of it, and this super fan, how these super fans would be so engaged in defining and giving a value to each item would be opening a whole new market for NFT, because what NFT is doing actually attaching a digital tag to the item, so that people can be competing for it through auctioning program or auctioning site, and it could be the price could going to be skyrocketing based on the competitiveness among the fans and the consumers. So I think that's probably what this manufacturer and K-pop business were looking for, because in the past everything that's happening surrounding this fandom is all provided free. I mean, they're chatting, individual chatting with the artist, and their engagement on social media. It's provided free, but now they're turning this every moment and every little details of the fan activity and engagement, into an item with the NFT technology, so that people actually can buy and own, and it cannot be copied.
Because it's exclusive.
Absolutely.
Staying with fans, Youngdae, there are concerns over efforts by entertainment agencies to capitalize on their artists' fan base by adding NFTs to their lineup of licensed merchandise. Very briefly speaking, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I saw BTS Fans Army. They made a hashtag campaign on Twitter, posing the idea of NFT and their artists being webtoon character and things like that. But I think they all understood that this, the effort of company turning their own IP into something else, I don't think they're opposing to that idea, actually. They're opposing, rather I would say they have concern, because, I mean, for instance, BTS, a lot of people already know the value of BTS, and for a lot of people, the value and the charm of BTS is in their authenticity. And they're already a one and only artist who having their authentic feel and authentic philosophy to the music. But what the company is trying to do is that they already have IP, right? BTS and their music. So they're simply trying to transform this IP into something else, some valuable item. So what the fans' concern right now is that whether their artist can be overused, and the image can be like overused simply as a commercial product.
Right.
Because for them, the artist is the authentic being, an artist, right? Rather than a product. But from the company, they definitely have the different ideas.
Right, so but hopefully they'll take the thoughts of the fans
already
into
established
mind.
the IP and the authentic product, and that they're just trying to sell it with a different format, and so that they can devise different ways to earn money, right?
Right, but hopefully they'll take the concerns of the fans into consideration as well.
Yeah.
All right, Youngdae, as always, thank you very much for your thoughts today.
Thanks so much.
Right, and on that note, we say goodbye. As mentioned in the first half of our program, Korea's daily COVID-19 tally has soared past the 10,000 mark for the first time. So do seek to abide by basic prevention guidelines. Thank you for watching.